In this section of the notes, we're going to look at graphing f of x equals ax squared plus c. So there's this plus c, interesting. And the zeros of a function. What the heck are zeros of a function? So let's take a look at our first example. It says graph g of x, that's how you read that, g of x. I'll write that down. Graph g of x equals x squared minus 2, and compare to the graph of f of x, compared to the graph of f of x equals x squared. Okay, so to graph this, all we got to do is plug in points. Make a table. Make a table. This should be pretty easy, so I'm going to do g of x in green, and I'll do f of x in red. So let's take a look. Is it going to be green? We're going to have, remember this is the same thing as y. So we have our x values, and that'll be negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Later on those will be different. And then I plug in stuff. So here we go. Y equals, same thing as g of x, y equals x squared minus 2. So if I plug in the negative 2, I get, the negative 2 squared minus 2. I have to do this first. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. 4, and then minus 2, that equals 2. So my y value is 2, and my x comma y is negative 2 comma 2. Oh, sweet. And then I just plug in all the rest of my stuff. I'm just plugging stuff in. Negative 1 squared is 1, right? Negative 1 squared minus 2. I'm not going to show all the work. You don't have to show all the work here. You can plug it in, do it in your head. Negative 1 squared, you have to do that first. That's 1. And then minus 2, that's negative 1. So we have the negative 1 for the y value, and a negative 1 for the x, and a negative 1 for the y. Okay, very good, very good. If I plug in 0, I get 0 squared minus 2. That's just negative 2. So I get 0 comma negative 2. Plug in 1. That should be the same as this, right? Plug in 1, and I get 1 minus 2. That's negative 1. And then this should be 2 right there. And I'm plugging in 2. Let's check. 2 squared is 4, minus 2 is 2. So 2 comes out. Sweet! So now I can graph this. That's easy. I'll do that in green still. I'll make my own axes. The highest value that I have is 2 or negative 2 in both directions. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, x, y. Okay, let's plot these. The negative 2, that means back 2, and then up 2. 1, 2. Okay, so that's my first point. Negative 1 comma 1, 0 comma negative 2. Whoops, I did that wrong, right? Negative 1, negative 1. That should be down there. 0, negative 2. That's right here. 1, negative 1. 2, positive 2. Remember, if you did this, that's wrong. Don't do that. Remember, it's a smooth curve. Make sure you have kind of like a U shape. That's what it should look like. So there we go. It says graph that compared to the graph of f equals x squared. Well, I know that f equals x squared. That's the main one. That's the original one. So let's see. Let's make a table for that. I'll do that really quick. I'll just do x's and y's. You remember, my f of x was just x squared, and that's the same thing as y equals x squared. So my x's are negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2, and I will plug them in and see what I get. So negative 2 squared, that's 4. Negative 1 squared, that's just 1. 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4. I'm just copying those from there. And there we go. So I can graph this. The highest value is 4. So I have, I'll just do 4 in every direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. X, Y. And then I plot this. Negative 2, comma 4. Negative 2, up 4. There we go. And then negative 1, positive 1. 0, 0. 1, 1. 2, 4. Oh, look at that. So how am I comparing this? How am I comparing these two things? What's the difference? What's the difference between these two? Well, the vertex on this one is at negative 2. No, sorry, 0, right? The x-coordinate first. 0, negative 2. Oh, that's the vertex. Here, the vertex is at 0, 0. It looks like this graph is just shifted, or this graph shifted downwards 2 units. That's actually what C does. That's what the C value does. That's what this does. That's what, oh my goodness. I'm going to write that down. So that's the characteristic of what C does. Y equals negative 2, x squared minus 2 is the same graph as y equals x squared, but shifted down 2 units. That's actually what C does. So let me write that in a little note. So the C value shifts the vertex up or down. This, if it was plus, if it's positive, well, maybe I'll write it like this. If it's positive, that means you shift up. If it's negative, like minus here, that means you shift down. And that's what happened here. Look at this. That's what happened. We had the minus 2, so we went down. The vertex went down 2 units. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. We can move on. Okay, I'll be done with this one and move on to part 2.